Hi there in front of the screens. Today it's all about being honest. If you want to join, be ready to speak the truth. If you're not that great at it yet, there's another video on handling conflicts. Maybe you want to take a look at that one too. So take a seat and let me tell you how you can play a little game with your partner to find out what is bothering you in your relationship. For this exercise, it is necessary to follow your heart, but take your brain with you, because some cognitive skills are needed not to let this escalate and make it a helpful and not harmful evening. So the first thing that is important is the question, what is your goal? I'm not talking about becoming a Hollywood star, but about your goals as a team, in a partnership in these days. And those can vary a lot, of course. The following examples have totally different consequences when you reach them. So be honest. The goals can be, and I'll magically write them down: stop fighting. Fighting every day can be pretty nerve-wracking. Reawaken lost emotions. They're rather flat at the moment. Revive sex life. Normal, isn't it, that it drops a bit after a while? But yes, you can do something about it. Raise the child together. Rather as good friends than a real couple. That's a valid wish. Might just not be extremely satisfying. Your goal doesn't have to be the same than that of your partner. Maybe you want to save the relationship and he or she wants to find out first if he or she wants to save it at all. Both goals are totally okay. And then, in the next step, we deal with the daily stresses between you. And now you will need a pen and 2 sheets of paper each. You both will make a list now consisting of 5 things that are bothering you about your partner. But don't cheat, and please refrain from making massive attacks. Try to rather formulate wishes. Use the I form or say how you feel about the situation. If you use severe criticism, all you get is justifications and resistance, and that would be pretty counterproductive. So let me show you what I mean. Instead of writing, "You never listen to me," Mary writes, "I have the feeling you're not interested in what I have to say." Instead of, "I cannot trust you anymore, you cheated on me," "I wish I could trust you again." And instead of, "You never keep your promises," she writes, "I would like to be able to rely on your promises." Instead of, "You don't talk to me anymore," she writes, "I wish we would talk with each other more." And finally, "You don't do anything for me," she writes, "Please take better care of me." The content stays the same, but it is much softer, so it's a much better base for constructive discussion. But John as well has a lot to say. And instead of writing, "You're constantly nagging," he writes, "I feel criticized by you quite a lot." Instead of, "You never stop talking," he writes, "I would like to have time on my own when I come home after work." And instead of, "You constantly wearing those old baggy sweatpants," he writes, "I have the impression that it's not important to you to dress up for me anymore." And instead of, "You always expect me to pay for everything, my money doesn't fall from the tree either," he writes, "I'm feeling bad because you expect me to pay for everything." And the final point on his list is, "You want a child, I don't." Well, here you don't have to find a new way of saying it. This is a severe problem that can't be solved by finding compromises anyway, right? There are no half-children. You probably cannot prove if Mary is objectively nagging too much. But more importantly, John has the impression she does, while she might find it to be constructive or even motivational criticism. And that's what counts. So it is worth discussing why they have those different opinions. And as I'm a woman myself, I can mention it here. Women indeed use criticism significantly more often than men. And why that is so, I will explain in a video on the differences between the sexes. But the exercise doesn't stop here. Now you write down on the second sheet of paper what you think is bothering your partner about you the most. Nobody had to look the other in the eye and speak the truth, but here it is on the paper, and that helps. It's called 3-point communication: me, you, and the paper. I don't have a conflict with the paper, and emotions don't boil up that much when I look at the paper instead of the other one's face. All right, exchange the papers now, and within seconds, your evening will be a very successful event for your relationship, and you will probably see that there's some rather complicated positions on the papers. You know, sometimes it's not easy to get to the point and find out what it really is that goes wrong. And here it might be helpful to ask a neutral person, not your best friend. They're never ever neutral. And if a lot goes wrong, it might be a good idea to ask a professional therapist. But you don't always have to seek therapy when things are not right. You can oftentimes manage yourselves. And the best therapy is to learn to talk about conflicts as early as possible anyway. There's one thing that nearly always happens when you do this little exercise. At least one point from the list will be solved right on the spot. Because often it is this famous difference between what was being said and what was being understood. And explanation starts with, why I always thought you wanted, yes, because you never talked about it. A misunderstanding became such a huge problem. But 1 point out of 5, that's 20%. How cool is that? And definitely worth a try, isn't it? Well then, try to make it 2 or 3 or 4.